situation? Where am I overspending? Where can I, if this credit card is keep growing, what's going on with my finances? And then last time we met is creating a budget, taking a look at what's my income, how much money am I taking in, and what am I spending it on? And that sometimes could be an eye-opening task. And then looking for a plan. And then once you get your budget together, then you could create a plan. You could decide, okay, what can I cut? What can I cut? What are my wants versus needs? And then you could start tackling your debt. And once that debt gets at a low point or debt gets eliminated, then you could start, accumulating more for the future, whether you want to buy a house, whether you want to go on vacation, whether you want to give more to God. This just opens up a whole many different ways that you can use your finances in a more productive way. Um, so here's some core steps for debt strategy. So first thing is you've got to look at your debt. Like how much have you accumulated? Take all your credit card bills. Look at your balances. Some of this information is not going to be on page one of your credit card statement. Your APR or your the interest rate is probably going to be on page two, three, very small. And so you're going to look for your how much interest what's the interest rate on this credit card? What is the minimum payments? And then when is this payment due every month? Then you want to create a budget. So you want to like we did last time, tracking your income expenses, and then through that you'll find some extra money that you can tackle to pay off some of this credit card. Another important thing is building some type of cash reserve. Just start small. I mean, it's here says save $1,000, even $500, or I'll start with $100. Just in case you lose your Metric card, something happens that you need some extra money. Try to put away maybe $25 or something that you could just handle for any emergencies that come up. And then as you get some more available cash, then you could increase that emergency fund. Then choosing a repayment method. Once you figure out what your credit cards are, how much you owe, what the minimum balance is, and when they're due, now you got to figure out, okay, which one am I going to tackle first? Which one am I going to get rid of first? So there's two methods. One's called a debt avalanche, and the other one is debt snowballs. And I'll go through the two types in the next slides. And you figure out, and that's preference. Whatever way you feel that you need to tackle this, some people choose either methods. And then, and then while you're trying to pay off the credit card, you stop incurring new debt. Use cash. I don't like to use my debit card because it's too closely linked to my checking account, and I don't want anybody getting into my checking account or my cash account. But avoid, like, if you have to charge something, make sure you have the cash to pay it off. I know some people they'll charge on their credit card and they make the payment to the credit card that night. You don't have to wait till the statement comes in to pay it off. So that's one way to tackle it. And then if it's really tight, you might have to figure out, okay, are there some options for me to get some more money, some more income? Is there a side hustle? Is there something I could Uber or something I can do to get additional cash? Is there anything I can sell? Do I have that storage site with storage facility with a whole bunch of items that I don't use? Or is my garage or the room filled with things that I don't use? What can I sell to raise some funds? So there's some options you could have if additional income is needed. So here we have the debt avalanche method. Here is you're looking at you're prioritizing your credit cards and you're looking at the one with the highest interest rate, and that's the one you're going to pay off first. And you're going to make, and so for example, if you have 3 credit cards and you're going to make minimum payments on the ones that have the lower interest rate, and you're going to focus on this one that has the highest interest rate. So once you do your budget and you figure out, okay, how much money do I have extra to pay? You're going to put all that money towards paying off this higher credit card. Once that credit card, the higher one is paid off, the one with the highest APR, that money that you were using to pay off for this credit card, now you roll that payment off to the next credit card with the highest APR. So if it was 12% before the highest one, now you're paying off the 5, or if the highest one was 40 or 30%, you're paying off that one first, then you'll focus on the 21%. But and the pros for this is it's you're using your money to pay off the one with the highest interest rate. So some people like to do that. It's like, I don't like to pay the extra money on the interest rate. I'm going to tackle this one first. And that's the avalanche method. So you're tackling the one with the highest debt, the highest mountain, to overcome. The next one is the debt snowball method. So here again, you gather all your credit cards and you see the one that has the lowest debt balance. And this is the one you're going to start paying off first. So if you have a $500 credit card balance, 2,000 and 10,000, you're going to start paying off the 500. And then once you finish the payment on that $500 credit card, you add that payment to the next balance, the $1,000 balance. And that's how it's called a snowball. So you're using the money from the other credit card to pay off that larger credit card. That's the one that I use that snowball method to pay off mine, because I like to see the accomplishments of at least I got one crossed off quickly. So that makes me feel good that I'm on a budget. Yes, I'm doing what I need to do. Okay, I got that little one off. Let's tackle the next one. So I like the quick wins, and it's good for my motivation. But there are other strategies and tools as well. The one of the things with the cons for the debt snowball is that it ignores the interest rates. So you're ignoring that high interest rate, but you're paying off that small balance first. So other strategy that you can think about is debt consolidation. Um, that's where you're combining it. You could call one of these companies that can consolidate your debt, and you pay off all your debts at one interest rate, and then one loan, and it's one interest rate that you're paying. Balance transfers, it's 0%, but there's always a balance transfer fee, and the 0% ends at a certain date. So you've got to be very disciplined to use this, because if you miss the date, you're paying a lot of interest. So this one, I highly say no. But if you're disciplined and you have your date down, and you have a plan to pay it off, like I've used this 0%, and then I pay it off right before the month that it's due. So it's paid off. I use that to my advantage, but I paid off before last month is due. But be very careful. I had to help my mom get out of this and beg the person on the other line to give her a break, and luckily they did. But it can be very very traumatic, very discouraging if you don't pay attention to the date. And then you could always negotiate with the creditors to offer you a lower rate, modify the payments. And then there's also professional help, where there's a National Foundation for Credit Counseling. They have a website. You could go there and get some tools to help reduce your debt. So this is strategies and tools. Oh, and that's pretty much it. But it's getting your budget together, figuring out how much you have to apply to these credit cards, figuring out which way the snowball or the avalanche, and then start tackling these credit cards to get them down to 0. All right. I guess Dave, we could open it up for questions.
Yeah. Thanks, Camille. Great job. Yeah, we'd like to open it up for questions now. So whoever would like to start, I don't know, Maurice, if you want to call on people, or how you want to do that.
We'll do that. Maybe if
Yeah.
you could undo your screen too, that way.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, let's go at Claudio and then Marcia.
Hi, this is actually Yvonne. The snowball method, if you're paying off the lowest credit card amount first, I just didn't want to leave anything to assumption. So you're still paying off all your other credit cards, you're still, you know,
The minimum.
Yeah.
the
The minimum balance, right? The minimum
But-
payments, sorry, the minimum payments. That's why you have to figure out the minimum payments for all your credit cards.
Okay, and then once you finish paying off the smaller one, whatever you were contributing to that one, you then add it to the next highest one, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Correct. Yeah, you're not keeping that. So say it's $200, you're not keeping that in your pocket. You're taking that 200 you were paying to the previous card and you're adding that in to the next card so that it's building. You know, you're bringing your balance down. So
Perfect.
good question. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, Marcia.
Markeisha. You always forget to see. Um, I had a question. So I've heard many different like days that you should actually pay off your credit card. Like some people say that you should pay it before the due date that the credit card is telling you. Some people say that you should pay it on the statement day. Do you know like what would be like the best time so that way it doesn't impact your credit?
Yeah. Do you always want to pay it in advance? So you definitely, you want to pay it prior to the date it's due, because then that will avoid you missing the payment and having any fees and added interest accumulated. So if for instance you didn't have any balance, you spent the funds and you just have the balance from what you spent the previous month. If you pay that in full, you won't have any interest going into the next month. So you want to make sure that you're always paying it. I would say paying it ahead of time.
Yeah, but like some credit cards, like I was told like you wait for like the statement day. So like if I know like the statement day is like on the 4th of every month, then
Mhm.
that means I know to pay the bill before the statement date is
Right.
produced. And I was
Yeah.
also told that like you also want to show the credit report, the bureaus that you are using the credit cards. So they
Right.
do want to see you use it to an extent. So
Yeah.
that part was just like a little confusing because I'm like, I would rather you see that I'm not using it than
Right.
that. But if you're trying to build your credit, shouldn't you
Sure.
still show that it's being used to have a small balance on there?
Yeah, so what they're looking at, right, is they're looking at you building credit history and responsibility, right? Responsible repayment. So that's what's going to establish credit over time. It does help to build your credit score, by you want to make sure if you're doing that, and this is more into toward building credit versus paying down debt, but if you are going in and you're saying, hey, look, I want to build my credit. I have two or three credit cards. You would want to use a little bit of each one and just pay it down to zero every month. That way, those card companies, see that you are paying on time, you're paying everything off, and they report that to the credit bureau, and that will build good credit history over time. So,
Okay. Yeah, if you're not carrying a balance, I use the credit card apps, and I just do it up. I just set up the payment on the due date, and not that I'm paying them automatically, but I'll go there and say, okay, make this payment on the due date, and I set it in advance, like that, like because I do my budget every 2 weeks. I look at my money, so I know when things are due. So I will set it. I say, okay, I want that paid on the due date on the app, so it's automatically withdrawn. I know I have the funds in there. But if you do have a balance, if you pay it off a little earlier, you do reduce the interest on that balance that you're carrying. But the credit cards companies are more interested in that you're making your payments on time, and there's a history of you doing it on time as well, and your balance is going down.
yeah.
Yeah, a great question.
All right, Mr. and Mrs. G, and then Sonia Wickman. You gotta unmute. There
Thank
you
you
go.
so much. Well, I wanted to find out what is the wisest thing to do. You were talking about getting a statement. Sometimes when we get the statement, it tells you minimum payment $50. But at the same token, if you read your bill, you have an interest of $100 and you have a fee of $10. So in the interim of that, is it wise to grasp that dollar amount also when you're paying the minimum payment? So that way, when you get the bill the next month, you lower your interest payment and your fees?
Camille, you wanna-
Yeah, Yes. It depends on your budget. So when you do your budget and you have enough to pay the interest and the fee, like the fee, like how much you can pay. But you should be paying more than the minimum balance. The minimum balance, if you look on page 2 or 3 of your credit balance, you keep paying that minimum balance, it's gonna run like 10, 20 years. And they're just gonna love you for doing that.
Mhm.
So if you could pay more than the minimum balance and cover some fees or whatever, do it. But run your budget. Make sure it's something you can consistently do or increase over time so you pay it off. But yeah, I think that's a good point. Just please do your budget to make sure you could afford that extra payment. But do not continue paying the minimum balance on
Yeah,
your credit card.
Yeah.
that's right.
Please
Yeah.
stop the madness. But
Amen.
Thank you so much for letting us get that information.
you're welcome.
Sonia, you want to go next?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. The presentation was excellent. I kind of do you guys know the Dave Ramsey method, correct? In reference
Yes,
to
but I'm not a
everything to
strong
be
proponent of Dave Ramsey, but go ahead.
okay. Because I'm always challenged by that. I went through that course twice in the last 20 years. Whereas it's like you're paying cash for everything, that
Yeah.
credit doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like if you're paying
Sure.
cash, who cares if you have good credit or whatever? I happen to have a mortgage and stuff like that. So all of that is already entrenched, and so you just said you weren't a proponent, so that was part of the answer. But is it possible to do like a combo of things? You know what I mean? Like always, like I'm trying to like get to the point. Like if I want something, a major purchase, whether it's like recently I had to purchase a new refrigerator, I pay cash. And versus using the credit card. I know people want their points and they want their sky miles and they want to, all this stuff. I'm never interested in that, which is probably sad. But yeah, can we do such? I mean, have you heard of people doing like a combo of that? Still try to pay things in cash, but obviously, like when I travel, my Airbnbs and stuff like that, I use the credit card.
I'm gonna let Dave go first and then
Yeah. So I think
Be
so.
gentle with me.
No, not at all. And look, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your question.
Hmm.
Thanks for your vulnerability. I'm going to say this, right? I taught the class. I taught it for the church in like 2007 or
Hmm.
like, so I taught that class. So his approach is basically that everything should be cash, right? You shouldn't be using a card for anything. And so like it's good in that like it's so radical about not taking on bad debt, which we talked about is so destructive. There's a difference though between, I think being disciplined and saying, "Hey, I have a credit card. I'm going to charge $1,300 on it, for the month of August, and that's going to be completely paid to zero in September." Then, hey, I'm overextending myself. Because like you said, you made a comment about the points and so yeah, I think you can do like a hybrid. For me, I did the same thing you did. I had to buy a fridge, and so I did pay cash, but what I did is I used the credit card and then I paid that immediately. And I did
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
online, so it was paid right away. And so I
Hmm.
got
Hmm.
I got free points. So you're essentially getting free money. So it really comes down to like this question of knowing yourself. Like, is a credit card bad for you? Is having a card, are you going to have the discipline to say, hey, I am only using this for things I need and I'm going to pay it immediately? Or because I would challenge anybody that just cannot use it that way, that they shouldn't be using a credit card then. Then they need to go in and pay the Dave Ramsey method. But the what Dave Ramsey's, it's almost like he's almost like it almost makes you feel like you're a bad person if you were to use credit. Like humans are just irresponsible and can't control their finances. And I just don't believe that. I don't believe his disciples, and especially with everything being so electronic today. You got to remember too, that was written like a lot of his material was post like electronic banking apps and things like that. Like I could make a charge. I bank with Wells Fargo and I have a credit card with them. I can make a charge now online and immediately go on and pay that. So that's the thing. So I think that's sort of lost in some of his like the things he taught. But the premise, though, is great. Like the premise is exactly what we talked about tonight, is not being like, just greedy and selfish and just taking on debt and then getting laden where you can't give to God and you're struggling. So to answer your question, yes, you could do both, and I think that's good. A little bit of Dave Ramsey, like you're paying in cash, but also, hey, you use a card and you pay it right away. If you have the
Mm-hmm.
discipline to do that,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that's good. So that's my take. But again, as the scripture in Corinthians talks about, it's permissible, it's not beneficial. So a lot of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff is prayer, getting advice, knowing yourself too,
Yes.
and like thinking through it, counting the costs on different financial decisions, and can be, many different ones. Like, Camille talked about the student loan, right? I mean, college is crazy these days, crazy, so that's something to think about, so there's a lot of different things. There's so many different components, but it's a lot of it comes down to the heart at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great advice. Great,
yeah.
great. Gave me a great couple of pointers. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Amen.
So,
Great
so,
question. We got time for a couple. I'm sorry, we say
so,
something, Camille?
so with Dave,
Um,
I think for me, Dave Ramsey doesn't live in my world. If my refrigerator breaks down, I need to get a refrigerator, whether I have the cash or not. But I've got to figure out a plan to pay it off. That means I shouldn't be. I don't need to be buying coffee. Maybe I don't need to get that pair of shoes this week, but I need to pay it off in a certain time period. So that if I need a car and if I don't have a car, I can't get to work. I got to figure out how to get that car. So it's like you gotta look at your life. You gotta figure out, okay, what can I afford? But there's some things that you're gonna have to get, and it's gonna be some tough living for that time period to pay it off. But I don't think everything is cash because you don't have the cash sometimes. But I love that we have a community here in the church, and where if you're doing your budget and you get help with your budget, and you're in a bind, you're like, help me with my budget. I've got to find a way to make this car payment because I got to get to work. So yeah, I can only listen to Dave Ramsey for a little bit, and then I'm like, no, Dave, you're not in my world.
I appreciate that. We got time for a couple more
Everybody.
questions. I don't know who Samsung is, but why don't you go ahead and go next?
Um, Maurice.
Yeah, that's me, but you go ahead and go. I see you now.
Okay. I just wanted to, to share with you guys and Camille that I'm going through some financial situation myself because I owe Blank Fitness $134. And I kept telling him that once I start, back sub teaching in September, I could be able to pay them, $134. And also, I still have to pay back SSI, little by little, and $200, which is something I have to like go there and, speak to them about it, you know, if I could give them, start paying them little by little. And, so that's some basically what I've been dealing with, a little bit of financial situation. So I wanted to share about.
No, thank you. Because sometimes when you talk to them, they'll work it out with you. They'll try. So it's good to just open up the conversation with the creditors to figure out if
Yes,
there's some type of
Camille.
plan. So I'm glad you're
Yes.
doing that, trying to find some different ways of paying it off.
Yeah.
I'll be praying
Nice
for
to
you.
meet you, Camille. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Camille. Did we met?
I'm sure
Have we met?
maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But my name is Tasada, but Tasada, aka T Roz. I'm a singer and a rapper. You can call me either Tasada or T Roz.
Nice to meet you.
All
Yeah.
right. Is there any other questions before we pray our way out of this? Everybody's good? Okay. Okay. So